Hello and welcome to TSK F1. My name's Rich and this is your daily dose of Formula One news. Now that the dust is settling on the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, we're going to be talking about Lewis Hamilton and him saying that the Red Bull is the most dominant car he's ever seen. Alonso eventually getting his 100th podium position. I'm hearing myself. Why am I hearing myself? Over there. Get rid of that. Yeah. We're going to be hearing about Alonso finally getting his double podium and 100th podium, and also Max Verstappen and problems at Red Bull, which I already have on the screen because I'm well prepared. Everything has gone wrong this morning, this end. So let's get talking about Fernando Alonso and the issues that seem to have gone on there. Now, he was given a 5-second penalty for being to the left of his grid box. At the start of the Grand Prix, and that was a 5-second penalty. And we all know how much Fernando Alonso loves to complain, but when he was told, he just said copy. So I think he was aware that he'd done that, and he got the penalty. When the safety car came out later in the race, he served the penalty, and there seemed to be a jack man that touched the car with his jack before the 5 seconds were up, and it was subject to a penalty. Now, I've seen a thing that said the FIA had 60% of the race to come to the conclusion whether he had a penalty or not, and it took them till after the race to apply the penalty. I was told that Alonso was literally removed from the podium, which we should never see. Whatever the situation, I think that's a bit out of order, personally, just to literally remove someone from the podium, if that's true. I think they should either sort it out before or after, but that makes it look really, really silly, doesn't it? And then late on, after 1 a.m. in Saudi Arabia, so they've clearly been going through it a lot, there was a reversal of this 5-second penalty. Now, from what I understand, reading the letter from Formula One, basically it does seem that Aston Martin presented other instances where the jack had been touching the car in other penalties and no penalty servings, and no further penalty was applied. And I think, from my understanding, what I seem to think is that the regulations say you must not work on the car, but it's a bit of an ambiguous term, and the teams and the FIA haven't actually agreed whether a jack touching the car is working on the car. Now, you or I can say it is or it isn't, but they haven't agreed whether it is. So on that basis, they said nobody's agreed that the jack is working on the car, if it's just touching, not lifting the car, but just touching. And other people have done it that haven't got a penalty. So why have you given us a penalty? So they had to reverse it in because of consistency, right? I don't know if anyone else has a different understanding of it, but that's how I read the statement. That's how I read the statement from the FIA. Alonso said there was no information at all on the second penalty that they got, and indeed, the Aston Martin team principal says the regulations say you may not work on the car. It's ambiguous. We have a clear procedure, a countdown, and the FIA rule says a car with a time penalty cannot be worked on until the car has been stationary for the duration of the penalty. And this is the problem. And I know it sounds really nitpicky, but it is a sport about thousandths of a second, especially this season, anywhere but with the Red Bulls, it's about thousandths of a second. So the rule that's been called into question is what worked on means. And because of previous penalties, Aston Martin took it to mean basically you can have the jack touching the car, like right there, but you're not lifting the car, you're not doing anything with the jack. It's literally sort of touching the car already. And they're saying that isn't worked on because they've not given penalties for that before. And look, this rule probably, I would imagine, will be clarified and ratified probably before Australia. Honestly, I think this is. We're on territory of Abu Dhabi, aren't we? Where it was about any or all lapped cars going past the safety car. It's just the use of the English language, and I don't particularly think it was Aston Martin doing anything cheeky. It was just it highlighted a flaw in the written rule, right? And so it is what it is, really. Yeah, I'm glad he got third as well. He did deserve it. And to be fair, George Russell said the same thing when he was handed third place. He said the same thing, that Alonso deserved the third place because of his drive. But it does make it look silly. But I think at the end of the day, personally, I have to say, despite it making them look silly publicly, I'm glad the FIA overturned it. You know. I think it's better to have done that and admitted that something was applied wrong than just brush it under the carpet, and not reverse something pretty quickly, really, because it was still the night of the race, and it got overturned again. It does look silly, but that's kind of the problem. It was the stewards were presented with information and they made the choice based off that. Whereas the whole point was that Aston Martin gave them extra information, and it was like, oh yeah, okay, we see where you're coming from now. So there we are. That is that overturned, and Fernando Alonso is third. The next bit, really, it's not only Lewis Hamilton that's seen this, but because Lewis Hamilton is saying it, it's the news, right? He said exactly, Pascal. It's just the English language. Lewis Hamilton has said the Red Bull is the fastest car he's ever seen. He says, I've definitely never seen a car so fast. When we were fast, we were not that fast. That is the fastest car I have seen, especially compared to the rest. I don't know how, but he came past me with some serious speed, and I didn't even bother to block him because there was a massive speed difference. Everyone wants to see a close battle, but it is what it is. It's not my problem. It's not my fault. And honestly, it's stronger. It's stronger. But here's what Toto Wolff had to say. We've had those years when we were strong. It is a meritocracy. Even if it's not great for the show that the same guys win all the time, it's because they have done a great job and we haven't. We shouldn't down talk it, because I remember hearing questions like that in 2014 to 2020. And what makes the sport so special is that you need to work hard to win. You deserve it, as a matter of fact. Entertainment follows sport. It's maybe not good for the commercial side, but it is what makes F1 so special. Meanwhile, George Russell said, you've got to give credit to what Red Bull have done. The gap they have to the rest of the field, it's bigger than we've seen probably since Mercedes in 2014. It's a serious, serious gap, and I guess everyone needs to keep working harder to understand how to close that gap. But we know we didn't make the right decisions over the winter, and I think we can regain some of the performance quicker than you would do ordinarily. So not everything is lost. So I think really you're just hearing... There's a few ways to look at those quotes, isn't it? I think Hamilton just had a bad weekend altogether. I don't think the car was where he was at. Like, he'd complained of not feeling connected to the car, and I talked about that during the watch-along. I think it was to do with Max, actually, and how quick he was coming through the field. That, like, these drivers, they're literally strapped into the car. Something at my door. Sorry, that really threw me off at 9 in the morning. I don't know what that was. But anyway... That's really thrown me off. They're strapped into the car, so they're at one with it. And if you feel disconnected for it, there's no way you're making a lap time that's worthy of anything, right? Whether that's Hamilton, whether that's a Latifi of years gone by, whoever it is, if they don't feel absolute complete confidence with the car, they can't deliver a lap time, can they? But what I will say is, when Perez and Max were trading fastest laps, they did have a delta of 1.5 seconds over everyone, which is just crazy. Now, for me, the race behind them wasn't too bad, but, you know, I can't get my head around the fact that however much they broke it by, they broke the cost cap and they're miles ahead of everyone. Once everything's homologated and whatever, they're miles ahead of everyone once the concept is in. And it's, you know, it's, even if it's like $500,000, how many wind tunnel runs is $500,000 worth and stuff? Yesterday, Red Bull showed again that they are a Max team. Did they? We're gonna talk about Red Bull a bit shortly. But I get why Hamilton has the stance he has, because he's a many-time world champion, and it'll hurt him because of 2021. It will hurt that Max is just driving past. And when I looked at one point in the Grand Prix, the time Russell was the slowest car on track by top speed, and the difference was something like 37 kilometers an hour between Max and Russell, which is just insane. 37 kilometers an hour. And man, like, just stand still and have a car go past you at 37 kilometers an hour. That's the difference in a straight line. Now, this is what I've... Look, I'm not diminishing Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, anyone like that, but there's no defense against that. Like, putting your foot down harder on a straight isn't like the sign of some inherently godlike driver. That is the car going 37 kilometers an hour faster in a straight line. It doesn't matter how good of a driver you are, you can't defend that, you know. And I'm not saying it's like a bad, like Red Bull have done an incredible job, but I do think, you know, we need to take a lot of what's happening here with a bit of a pinch of salt. The difference was huge. Now, I don't know whether it ended like that, Pascal, and I can't remember what stage of the race. I think it was after the safety car I looked, when Max was putting in some seriously hot laps. But, I mean, it was 17 over the next non-Red Bull car. So, you know, it was crazy, the difference. They are so fast in a straight line, and it's not down to the Honda power. It is just aero and stuff, you know. And again, we shouldn't, the same as you can't really peg back Mercedes during their dominance, it's not Red Bull's fault that everyone else has done a worse job, is it? But you have to look at maybe the mitigating circumstances to how they might have got there, spending tons on sandwiches. Maybe. Who knows? But anyway, just thought I'd bring you that. I don't think it's particularly Lewis Hamilton being a slapped ass or anything. And actually, Toto and George were very complimentary about it. Because to be fair, George was complimentary, but said nearly exactly the same as Lewis there. Now, let's mega sarnies. That's what you do. BLTs for everyone. Now, the Red Bull situation. Now, we you know, look, we saw video footage last night and stuff like this, and people disagreed with me over on the TSK F1 Discord about it, but I still saw a driver ignore his teammate that had just won, and then go in front of the teammate that had just won, and then continue to ignore the teammate that had just won, and then be a slapped ass in the conversation after with the teammate that had just won. Now, and then I think everyone's seen the footage of Jos Verstappen as well. And look, on a personal human level, I like to see graciousness in defeat. I think it's possible to be gracious and literally say in a combative way, I'm getting you next time. And no, I'm not being nice or messing about, but well done, you know. And I dislike what I saw. Now, everyone's saying, oh, they got out and they shook hands. And I think the body language is clear to see. I think the body language is so clear to see. And there are other things coming out now. So the next thing that's come out is that the big rumour is that on Saturday, Max Verstappen didn't go to the team debrief. He just jumped and he left the track, and he just didn't get involved at all with the team debrief. It was actually Nico Rosberg on Sky Sports F1. Also, on Saturday, he left the track very quickly and skipped the team meeting, apparently. That's what I've been told. That's not a good approach, not a good mentality this early in the season when the team have done such a brilliant job with the car and is working so hard. He could be a little bit more gracious, I would say, right? And I agree. I honestly agree, because you can do what you want, even if he's had reliability trouble. I don't like, and it's not a Max Verstappen thing, this. I want to be really, really clear, and it's just my opinion. I don't like the fact that there are literally hundreds of people putting any of those drivers into the position they are. You could borderline over 1,000 with some of the teams, putting these drivers into that position. And for whatever reason, Max Verstappen's decided he's not going to the team debrief after Saturday. And I'm not on board with that, because I think there's a level of courtesy and respect that needs to be afforded the other way. Like, okay, your name might be Fernando Alonso. Your name might be Fernando Alonso. I'm not kidding. If I was his boss, I'd say, you are coming to this meeting. I don't care who you are. So many people work so hard to put that car around you and give you this opportunity. You are coming to these meetings. Like, it's not, I'm not messing about. Oh, you're going to leave. See ya. And I would be that way. I can't help it, because I think people think of Formula. He's right to. Max Verstappen's right to, because the car let him down. The team let him down. Yeah, but the team's brought him 2 world championships. Stop being a slapped ass and get to the debrief. You know? And look, you can replace Max Verstappen with any driver. I think the drivers owe a massive debt of respect, courteousness, graciousness to the people that put them in that position. And I think some people do it really, really well. And look, again, replace Max Verstappen in this story with any driver you like, Lewis Hamilton, whoever. I'm just speaking generally. I don't like to hear that Max Verstappen had a bad qualifying session because of reliability, and because of that, skipped the team debrief because he was in a mood. Like, is he not being paid a staggering amount of money? And has he not just won 2 world championships? Like, and people will say that's what it takes to win. I don't think winning just destroys any form of decorum in an individual, and I don't like to see it. Look, I'm not being anti-Max. If you're a Max fan, think about any other driver doing it. Think about you working for Red Bull. Working so hard. Maybe you even milled that drive shaft, and then Max Verstappen's just being an ass about it. It's like, well, you know, mate, I try. You know, I'm trying. You know, it really annoys me, this whole story. Now, so there's that, and now there are quotes from. Also, I did notice there's another thing that's been said as well. Let me open this on Twitter so I get it correctly, because it is in is it Spanish? Or Mexican, I don't know. But tweet from Sergio Perez: it was tougher than I thought, but in the end I'm happy with my to get my 5th F1 victory. Very happy with the result of the team. Will continue to push very hard. Right. that tweet is actually a repost because he deleted his first tweet, which ended, "I want to be champion." And then it got deleted and reposted without the quote, "I want to be champion," at the end of that tweet. Why was that deleted? I would love to know why. Why was it tweeted? Did Sergio Perez think, "I can't tweet that"? Did his PR team think, "We can't tweet that"? Or was Sergio Perez's PR team or him told, you can't say you want to be champion, you can't say that"? Now, personally, I don't understand why you would remove that. Whether it's him, whether it's Red Bull, whoever. Of course he wants to be champion, doesn't he? Doesn't he want to be champion? So, do we think that Sergio Perez can beat Max Verstappen over a season? Honestly, I don't see it. I think on his day, like we saw yesterday, I think he can beat him. I think he can beat him over a season consistently. Now, what we saw yesterday from Jos and Max Verstappen is exactly why I've said Max Verstappen, and admittedly I was on about Fernando Alonso. Max Verstappen doesn't want a season-long battle with someone like Fernando Alonso, but it seems to me the thing that's affecting Max Verstappen most is if his teammate can give him trouble, because it's the second race of the season. It's the second race of the season, and Max Verstappen seems as rattled as he ever was during the 2021 season that lasted all year with Lewis Hamilton. It's the second race. Like, personally, I think you'd have seen most drivers, honestly, and I mean this, I think you'd have seen most drivers go 15th to 2nd and their teammate win, then get out the car and be smiling like, "Nice one, mate. Nice. We've got a 1-2. In our day in the office, 15th to 2nd, but we've got a 1-2. Mega for the team. Brilliant." I think you'd have seen most people do that. And I think this whole trait is why... this whole trait is why, honestly, a lot of people like Max Verstappen, because they think it shows a complete mentality to win and not take second best. But I think it's how you take that, isn't it? I think you have to have... I thought Max had grown out of this. I actually did. I thought he'd grown out of this. I actually thought he had. But you can, like, it's a win. It's a win, effectively. 15th to 2nd in Jeddah is a win, effectively, in that context. Because, let's face it, Jeddah, he could have been gone at turn 1. There could have been all kinds of bothering, you know, like that is a really good result, isn't it? Like, I don't think anyone can diminish that. It's a brilliant result. And I don't get it. I don't get it, because I would have been seriously happy with that. Now, I do wonder, because I could talk about this quite a lot, because I think it becomes like a human thing. I wonder whether Max has got out the car and been quite all right, and then he's seen his dad, who isn't at all. And we've seen the pictures. We've seen the pictures of Jos. I wonder whether Max might have got out the car, been actually reasonably all right, and then seen his dad really not all right. And that mentally, to Max, it does things away from the sport to a person. And I wonder... You know what I mean? I'm trying to give Max a little bit of credit here, that maybe it's an outside influence, that he's got out of the car and seen how annoyed his dad is, and he can't, like, maybe from a human level, he can't let his dad down, and he feels like he has, so therefore he's really angry. Does that make sense? I don't know. I think I'm just trying to give Max a little bit of credit for how it was. You know, is the kid's 25 years old, grew out of what? He's 25 years old, grown out of it. He's not a kid. 25 years old isn't a kid. I don't know what you're on about, James, there. If the title fight's between Max and Checo, well, I think it could be, I don't know. I think you can have a mature conversation about this, because I'll admit it. Like, if you were doing something like this, but you felt like somehow you'd let down a parent, I can imagine how that would affect you. And I think maybe that might be a bit of what Max Verstappen has going on. I don't know, because I heard the team radio where he said, "What's the fastest lap?" His engineer said, "We're not worried about that at the moment," and he said, "I am," and he went for it again. But I don't know. Notorious saying the entire Verstappen and Red Bull family is toxic. John saying it definitely comes down from Jos. Even then it's not right. Max is a two-time champion. Jos can't expect his son to win every single race. Well, Jos shouldn't expect that, because he was always fairly mid, wasn't he? I don't remember Jos Verstappen setting the world alight. I think he had flashes of it from my very distant young memory. But I don't think Jos Verstappen was ever anything insanely special. I think on his day he had a turn of pace, but I could be very wrong on that. But I don't remember him being, To be honest, Christian Horner said the last thing he wanted was his drivers going hammer and tongue, but praised Checo for keeping the gap. Now, look, I was watching the lap times. And I was saying this in the watch along. I was being very fair in saying Max Verstappen's just set a really fastest lap, and then straight away Checo would respond with another fastest lap. Then Max would, then Checo would. Checo had a measure for Max yesterday, and maybe, I haven't actually thought this until now, maybe that's what's rattled Max. Maybe it was that, because we had someone in the chat saying Max isn't even trying now. Max has been told to hold, and I said, no, he hasn't. He's charging up his battery and cooling his tyres, and he's going for the fastest lap. And I was right in the end. That's what he did. And I wonder whether that's actually what rattled Max. Again, it's just theorising and looking at what we've seen. Maybe they were swapping fastest laps that often that Max knew, actually, on that day, Perez had him. So he knows he's in for a title fight. Maybe. Rattled isn't a stretch. Tell me, rattled isn't a stretch. Did you watch it? Oh, is rattled a stretch? Look at... Really? I'm baffled at anyone saying rattled is a stretch. Max Verstappen was rattled yesterday. 100% he was rattled. Well, let's put it to a vote. Let's put that to a vote. A poll. Was Max rattled? Yes, no. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. There you go. Poll in the chat. We can let it go a little bit longer to get a result of the poll. There you go. Was Max rattled? Yes or no? I think he was, quite strongly. I suppose as a winner, you're not happy about being second, but at the same time, dynamic of the Red Bull team isn't right, but starting to become slightly public. Yeah, no, I get, but this is what I'm saying though, Nick. As a genuine sort of driver at Jeddah, what we know can happen at Jeddah, do you not think it is a win to go 15th to second? You'd go, it's Perez in first, but you'd get out the car and you'd at least pretend a little bit, wouldn't you? And you'd be like, nice, yeah, 15th to second. You know, I wanted to win, but, you know, from 15th to second in Jeddah, anything can happen. I'm happy with that, you know? I get wanting to win, but that is basically a win in Jeddah, isn't it? You know, it could have been so much worse, you know. I'd not expect Jos to be jumping for joy. No, indeed. You'd at least be like, you'd at least like give him a pat on the back and say congratulations, mate. Well, the vote's going very, very clear. He made sure he never made eye contact or any respect. Yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel, Nick. Look, I'm not making. I mean, this is what we watch the sport for, right? And I don't like making controversy out of something. But I was watching lap times, like relentlessly. Perez fastest, Max fastest, Perez fastest, Max fastest, Perez fastest, Max fastest, Perez fastest. And they did that the entire time after the safety car. One set it, the other set it, the other set it, the other set it. And I think it showed Max, well, I've got an answer for you. At least today, I have an answer for you. And I think it frustrated Max because he realised, again, on that day, I don't think Checo can do that race in, race out. I truly don't think he can do that every race. I really don't. I concede that. But I think it did rattle him where he'd make a faster lap and then Perez would do it again. And it's like, I know how much I just pushed there. And only he knows. And then Perez does it again. And then he pushes that little bit more and gets it again. You know what I mean? It's one of them. It's an interesting one. Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I think the issue is later on in the season we know what's going to happen. When team orders come in and Max gets his way because he is to win the title. Well, this is the thing as well, isn't it? About the tweet. The tweet, I mean, I'll wrap it up in a moment. It's good debate, though. It's a good debate because there's people thinking that Max wasn't rattled, but 88% of people do think he was rattled. But the tweet, I don't know who or why Sergio Perez would have deleted the "I want to be champion" at the end of his tweet. Was it Red Bull? Was it him thinking better of it? Was it his PR team thinking better of it? I don't know. I don't see it as a bad thing because all of them, all the way down to Logan Sargent, Alex Albon, whoever you want to name, they all want to be champion. So it's somewhat of an obvious statement. But of course, the guy in the fastest car on the grid wants to be champion. This is Checo Perez's best chance ever in his life to win a Formula One World Championship. I don't think it's a bad thing for him to say it. But I don't know who told him to or made him delete it. You know, but someone told him to delete it. You know, Max being his true self. Well, a slapped ass, Philip. Personally, I want Checo to win the championship. He won't be allowed to win it. Red Bull is lame. Did Checo dirty? I don't see how they did that. He won the race. Someone said something odd the other day as well, and saying how Checo was slow, but he got pole position. It made no sense either. But I think he was subtle in saying, "Why is the fault on my car?" I don't think he was subtle at all, Philip. I don't think Max Verstappen was playing any subtle games yesterday. I don't think he was doing any subtle anything yesterday. Honestly, I think you're honestly fooling yourself if you think Max Verstappen was playing any subtle games yesterday. But anyway, there we are. That is the Monday TSK F1. That's the news. We probably could have talked about this for another hour or so and just going back and forth talking about it. But that is TSK F1 for Monday. The poll came out. 90% of people think that Max was rattled. Well, 89% because of the people voting. But 89% of people thought that Max was rattled yesterday. Please do make sure you've left a like on the stream, guys. It really, really helps. And if you are new here, make sure you've hit that sub button down below and also the bell notification button so you get notified whenever I go live. I have got an idea about a video. I'm not sure whether I'm going to get it out today, but I've got a really good idea for a video regarding penalties around Fernando Alonso and stuff like that. But until tomorrow, 9 a.m., thanks a lot for joining me, guys. I'll be live over on Twitch in the next half an hour or so on my other channel, Pit Lanes. Would I play some F1 games? You should go over to .tv. You should go there because I am a streamer over there. So there you are. Thank you very much, guys, and I will see you either over on Pit Lanes in the next half an hour or so, or tomorrow morning. Thanks a lot, guys. See you later. Cheers.